Guys, go ahead and come up on stage, and please give them a huge round of applause. I know you just got back from a coffee and drink. Get some energy. Energy is good. So find your head and sit under it. That way people know who you are. And then so I think Sten is coming, maybe. But if we don't find him, we're all good. So it's great to have everybody here. So who is Estonian in the room? I've kind of figured most. Okay, who is a founder of a company? Or wants to be a founder of a company? So you're all builders, founders, more or less. Okay, good. Well, the conversation is going to be along that line. What I wanted to talk about to kind of start this with, well, first of all, we're just going to brief introductions to give you some context as to why each of these people is going to have something to say about this topic. And let's start with that. So Ragnar, why don't you go ahead and just present yourself?
Hello, my name is Ragnar. I've been now, I think then 5+ years, helping building blockchain and now kind of DAO or Web3 related companies in Estonia. And I think that's the main reason I'm here today.
Hi, I'm Neeme. I've been building small businesses, helping to build small businesses for about 25 years. I started with Web 1, Web 2, now 3 years in Web 3, trying to fuse the old real estate with Web 3, making a currency for accessibility for everyone.
Hi, my name is Tanel, and in 2020 I started with COVID. I started an organic egg farm, so that's the right place to be here right now and on the stage, as I understand. But actually, 2022, I was in a kind of a difficult situation, and I decided to launch digital chickens, as you can see here. So the chicken NFTs. And I sold them to raise money for my company to survive, and it was very successful. And my oldest NFT owner is 76-year-old lady.
I love it. So we're going to talk about it, but we need to launch a meme coin called Egg and just kind of complete the circle and make it work. So my name is Pierse, and if we haven't met before, I look forward to getting to chat with all of you. Wear a whole bunch of different hats. My main activity is Borderless Ventures, which is venture capital investment into Web3, AI, creator economy, and sustainability. Borderless is actually based here in Tallinn, even though I live in France. So I'm now semi-Estonian with my little blue e-residency card and my Borderless Ventures OU. Yay. And so but I do a couple of different other things, one of which is a co-founder of the NFT Factory Paris, which is the ecosystem hub of the French Web3 ecosystem. And you might not realize it, but about a third of what's being built in Web3 is being built in Paris, and another third is being built in Hong Kong, and the rest of it's being built everywhere else. France, just for some reason that we could explain in a longer talk, has a lot of that going on. The NFT Factory was founded by 128 of us from Ledger, SoRare, Sandbox, Artifact, Ariani. So 3 unicorns, 6 others on the way, and just a bunch of other people in the ecosystem, because it was all happening independently, and thought, well, why not if we get together and build a Web3 ecosystem more as a group? And then because we put it into a physical location, became the largest physical art gallery for digital art in the world. We just closed that location and we're opening a new one, but the whole point of that is this ecosystem development, and why people build things in certain places is very dear to me. It's called Borderless Ventures for a reason, and that's because I bridge Southeast Asia, Europe, and North America in terms of international business development and capital. And so I love the ecosystem building conversation, and I'm an Estonian fan. I wave that flag next to my French tech flag, so I've got both of them up there now, because there's reasons for all these things to be great. There's just a ton for us to chat about this topic, but I wanted to start with just the idea of that it's not just about Web3 building here. The first piece of that is, why do people want to build anything here? Why is it already a great ecosystem just to build startups? So I think let's talk a little bit about your business building and why Estonia is just a good place. What are the ingredients that make this? I don't know that Estonians realize why this is a place that people now want to build a lot of stuff. So I think it's good for us to highlight some of that. Maybe Neeme, we talked about this a bit. Your thoughts?
Yep, thanks. I have felt from basically 20 years back when I, after my high school, started a business, that my friends in Latvia, everyone else, first of all, they admired our maybe bit more entrepreneurial mindset. That was maybe one thing. But the other thing that they immediately noticed, that it seems to be so easy to do things in Estonia for some reason. And then that is perhaps one card that I see that Estonia has played well. I have my doubts about the vision our government today has, and so it could be done better, and so on, so on. But another part I see is that definitely Mart Laar, one of our prime ministers from almost 30 years back, played well is the tax card, the zero income tax on profits, accumulated capital in the company. So this makes one thing very, very clear, obviously, but over the time we have become like digital society. Like I said, it could be better today, but it clearly has made things very, very simple. And Estonia in general seems to be, to me, like a good size as well. It's like a sandbox. So it really is easy to test here. And combined with digital society and all these tax elements, you can literally integrate vertically if you want things, and then try things out quickly and efficiently. And yeah, that's
a good start.
Agree.
Ragnar, thoughts?
I fully agree. That was a long, and everything was included. I think e-residency is also a big part. Why today? And with Web3, Estonia is a good place. It helps connect people and allows them access and sort of additional tools that they don't probably get in many other places around the world. I think tax simplicity is something that always also works. Although people do make some mistakes there, that it's not maybe as simple as it's advertised, or it's like it's oversimplified. So there's always some extra explanations that you need to give, but it's a good reason why people look here. Like from my own personal experience, they were looking in Asia, in big hubs, they were looking in Israel, and then ended up in Estonia. So that's something that they've done their research. They looked weird, for me at least, weird places, and Estonia was one that kind of spoke to them and stood out from the rest. So that's something.
I think we'll see that funnel happen as people learn more about it. The fact that you kind of have this Singapore-like opportunity to have an interesting digital government, an interesting place that's a live sandbox to be able to test things and stuff like that, but you have it inside of the EU, meaning it still has all the regulatory obligations and compliance of being in the EU. It's not kind of a Malta-y, let's do everything the way we want to. No, it's you have to do it the right way, but you can do it in a small-ish place that lets you experiment with it, figure it out, and then export that through. We'll talk about some of the other ideas, but that is an interesting thing. I mean, my journey's been U.S., France, Hong Kong, Singapore, Luxembourg, Estonia. I mean, because it's a place that encourages what I want to build, and I don't want to do it in a way that isn't ethical and transparent and correct in terms of regulatory compliance, but I do want a place that wants to work with me. And that's an important thing I think we see here, that when you do have an administration that is open to, okay, what are your questions and how do we address those and how do we fix that? And my journey has been, but we discussed this a little bit, my next step, if any of you has like a significant other that's a VP at LHV, let me know because I'm trying to open my bank account. But the process has actually been really pretty easy for me to do all of these things. And that's valuable to people who are, especially if it's not your first company and you just need the place that's encouraging and wanting to work with you on that. Thoughts on, because yours is definitely a different version of the businesses that we're looking at, and I think that's really valuable because it's not just digital nomads or full remote companies that maybe want to set themselves up in Estonia. There's other reasons maybe for other versions of companies.
Yeah, so my company is totally different. Like you need to build some stuff and need to get some permits and all this. But for example, how I started my company is it took me in the web maybe 10 minutes, paid 200 euros, and the company was registered. I already received a court order that yes, this is all good. You can start doing business. So this is as simple as it is for this kind of stuff. And as if you do some monthly VAT tax report, it's also a few clicks and it's sent and everything is done. So Estonia is using a lot of tech in the government side also. And I was just in the country fair selling my eggs and mayonnaise, and what I saw actually also is that the people over 70 came to me showing some pictures, showing that they are in the Facebook using Gmail. And that is actually, for me, it was kind of interesting because those kind of people are not very keen to use a lot of new technology. But they had the smartphones, they have Facebook there showing me stuff and all this. So I think in Estonia, the people are more tech kind of people than maybe in some other countries.
And I think that if we look at one of the things that makes an ecosystem, an innovation ecosystem, also strong and start to scale is when you have this kind of flywheel effect where the people who are founders or employees of your first big companies, your 11 unicorns that you've had here, well, then they go on to take their experience and maybe their capital and they start companies. But then their employees then go on and start companies. And you're on your second or third degree of that here. And that's also what starts to create, and everybody talks about being a Silicon Valley, and that's a BS story because that's a version of something that evolved organically over time. You don't want to copy that. You want, what is your version of what that can look like? Now you're on your second and third iterations of people building and having that experience and that capital. And that creates a lot of the value that you're able to see now where you have all these resources to work with. You've got smart employees, experienced employees in these things. Obviously, when an ecosystem grows this big in a country that's this size, you also start having to hire in because there's only so many people who can know how to do all those jobs. So there's probably maybe a hiring issue there that tends to happen in these ecosystems, but that's a good thing in some ways. It means you're scaling well. So let's then take that and go a different step with it. So there's lots of reasons: the fully digital admin, the ease of the administration, the cost factor, speed, the efficiencies of why you would just start a regular company. If we talk about building a Web3 company, what does that mean, adding in the Web3 piece of this? Obviously, that's going to create another layer of issues because some of this on a regulatory level is new. The big problem with regulatory stuff isn't that regulators hate us, it's that we're doing something new. And regulators need to figure out what that means in order to do their job, which is protect people. I'm giving the positive version of the spin on that. But there is a reality there, that they have a job to do, and this is new, and so they have to figure it out. What has been your experiences of building the Web3 thing? Not just the negative, but also what have you seen positively from the ecosystem here? Neeme?
Trying to be neutral and not just saying that I feel home, that's one thing. For me, it's easy to say that it's easier for me to navigate here probably. But talking about Web3 and regulation, we probably don't have time to go deep into the regulatory issues, and then there is a lot of uncertainty, just to mention. With Mika is there coming, and we know that Estonia is now working on their how's the correct term in English, law to apply Mika, basically, Krüts, how we in short in Estonian. And then there are a ton of problems that who will be the regulatory body governing it, yada yada yada, all these issues. But the good thing there is that then we would have clarity. And now the good part of Estonia kicks in, like we discussed earlier, that it's a sandbox and Estonia is kind of flat, small. So with small effort, you can actually sit down with someone in Estonia, in government office, or you can talk and say that I've run to an issue, I want to do this, what do you think about that? Even if it's not binding, the answer they give you, they give you something. So you can move in this room and test and then build. And yep, that's.
It's interesting that you mentioned that accessibility piece, because one of the things that Sander has built into this week is the fact that, so on Thursday we have this thing called the Policymakers Roundtable, where some of the speakers and some of the entrepreneurs that are a part of the conference will actually go have a sit-down discussion at the Ministry of Finance. And I do 80 events a year in 20 plus countries, and this is the only place I've ever seen that happen, where we go and have that kind of discussion as a part of an event week like this, where we're getting to sit down with that. Now, other events do interesting things, and that does encourage, like every year there's this big conference in France called Vivatech, and the day or two before that, Macron invites 100 or so of the most important investors or CEOs of big tech companies out to Versailles for a dinner. Okay, that's kind of cool, and that is a big deal, and that does really help build an ecosystem. But when it comes to this, this is the only event that I do where we get to have this conversation with the regulators during the week. I think that's a really interesting access. That's really important. The only other place that is that easy in my mind is Singapore. The Monetary Authority of Singapore is also extremely accessible when it comes to, okay, we want to do this, and they're like, no. And they're like, how do we do it? And they're like, we'll think about it. But it's not, they actually will figure out. That's why a lot of the funds are there and different things, because it's actually a no with a, but we'll figure it out. But it'll still be above board. It'll still be regulated. It'll still be correct, but we'll figure it out. France is actually not so bad in that, but that's just a longer process, but they're actually still pretty accessible. You mentioned MiCA. So who here knows what that word, when we say MiCA? Anybody idea? It's not your friend Michael. MiCA is, okay, so MiCA is markets and crypto assets. Very quickly, just because I think it's important to define, and it's a part of, I think, a lot of what we might talk about next. So if you're an insurance broker in Vilnius, for example, you can go to Paris and sell insurance, more or less, because that kind of licensing for a very long time has had portability or passporting in Europe to where you can do that regulated activity everywhere in the EU because they've dealt with that already. Well, markets and crypto assets has to deal with companies that do digital asset service providers, my brain's tired. Digital asset service providers, or anything to do where basically you are issuing, transferring, managing, holding assets on behalf of different parties. So the fact that you're in that process of it, well, since that's new, we don't have it, which means if you're Binance and you have the French license, you don't get to do anything in Germany or Italy unless you get the German and Italy license. So that means you have to get all the licenses. Well, that's expensive. And then you have places like Germany where BaFin is like, yes, so no. We're not going to give you that license because we don't like what you do. So what MiCA will do, it's already in process. We'll finish when the EU passes something like MiCA. Every country in Europe has 2 years to pass the law that goes with it. So by this time, by July of 2026, every country in Europe will have to have a law that makes MiCA happen. The two countries that have standards above MiCA are France and Germany. So that's why Binance, CoinHouse, OKX, Kraken, Crypto.com, a few others have all put their European headquarters in Paris because they've gotten the French license, which means the moment that MiCA law goes into place in Italy, if they don't already have a Italy license, which they do, they would be able to do business there. But for Binance, which does not have a German license because they won't give them one, the moment that MiCA law goes into play in Germany, Binance gets to do business in Germany because now their French license works everywhere in Europe. Well, why am I taking a long time of our time to explain that? Because this will flatten the playing field. So a place like Estonia, if you want to build a Web3 company here, now you're going to be able to have the same ability to be that in-between digital asset thing as anybody else. And you might be thinking, I'm not going to build an exchange. But if you build a Web3 game and you hold the tokens or you distribute tokens to your players, you might be a bank. Like regulations can be a little complex in this space. MiCA flattens that and means that even building a company in a place like Estonia, which might not be people's first thought of where this might be to do, now all the other reasons the ecosystem makes sense you're also going to be able to build Web3 here and compete with these other countries. So, thoughts?
I would add what you just said. I would add also that Mika also clarifies certain definitions in the sector, and then, for example, in our particular case, even an asset classes, and that makes Estonia particularly interesting again, because it's an interesting place to keep your holding company if you do, for example, something like asset reference token, because Estonia automatically removes one very important small detail from the equation, it's taxes. Because whenever I discuss setting something similar up, all the lawyers I'm talking to, their brains blow up, or tax consultants' brains blow up when I talk about creating something like asset reference tokens, because this is almost something like running a fund, yada, 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 all the time. So complicated in terms of taxes and everything. So anyway, that's one important element there.
Tanel? So I'm really curious, because you're an egg farmer and you launched NFTs. So you had to learn a whole bunch of things, but also deal with potential like government official, like administration. Like, what was that like to go from a very it's not even a tech startup necessarily in that sense, and yet you add on this Web3 piece. What was that journey like?
So first thing, when I told to my accountant that now I'm gonna sell some NFTs, she was like, what? What is it? It's some kind of new egg or chicken, or what is it? And I said, yeah, it's digital chicken. Then I tried to explain it, because but actually my my explanation, because I had quite a big community, or have, and they were not tech people. They didn't understand Web3, crypto, NFT, or whatever. And I needed to make it quite clear of myself that what am I gonna sell to them actually, and this, what is it, the NFT and all this. Say simple words, with simple words, what is it, the NFT and all this. And that's kind of was helping me talking to my accountant, and also accountant was in talk with the government officials all the time, asking around what it should be, how we should tax it, and so on. So it was, of course, the government officials, they were also at the beginning didn't understand let's put some VAT on it and some digital product and let it be. I said, no, it's not that simple, because we, with our NFT owners, we share our profit with them, and that made the whole thing a lot more complicated. But I wanted to give something back, not just they will give me money, but I wanted to give something back, but without all the legislative contracts and all this when you do fundraising, when you give part of your company away. So
I think that's really interesting, because it's important to always understand that regulators will always be late when it comes to understanding technology. It's not a criticism. It's just the fact that if you're inventing things and innovating and building stuff, then obviously if you're the first one doing something, well, then everybody else doesn't understand it. Well, that would make sense that the regulators would also not yet understand it, so they have to catch up. That seems normal. So one of the benefits of being in a smaller, more lean government and administration is maybe they can catch up faster. And that seems to be, in my opinion, the case here. But Ragnar,
I know things do it or to test it out in Estonia. I think one of the good things do it or to test it out in Estonia is maybe the transparency. And with that transparency comes kind of simplicity, or you can actually do things cheaper, I guess, because there's less bureaucracy, there's less layers. So it's easier to test your ideas, or it's cheaper, it takes less time. And I think for many, that's a big benefit. You don't have to wait a few years for answer. You can actually kind of do a few iterations. You can test your ideas multiple times within a year, maybe, that otherwise could take years before you get the first reply, or before first person sues you for you to get the answer. So that's good thing in Estonia.
Like Tanel just said, sat down with the tax officer and actually went back and forth, which is an amazing thing.
Yeah, because the thing I find is again, that's why I am trying to give a positive spin to that, because I've had enough of these conversations with those kind of people in different countries to know that in general, they actually want to figure it out with you. The problem is if you don't try and figure it out and you just do whatever shit you want to do, well then that becomes problematic later, because there was a thing you had to do. But if you try and figure it out with them, I tend to find that that conversation, for the most part, is, okay, let's figure it out. Especially if they realize eventually this is going to be more revenue or more, like it's not a bullshit thing. It's not fraud. It's not, like we talk about the crypto stuff, like if we get rid of their whatever ideas they might have about what certain bad people are doing, that there is a good thing that we can do here that will create revenue, that will create profit, that will create taxable, like that kind of stuff tends to make them go, okay, let's figure that out. If it can benefit the economy, I think we kind of went through a couple interesting, so I think, okay, well that's, I think we kind of went through a couple interesting pieces there. I'm kind of thinking, given the hands that went up and things like that, that you might all have some questions, and we've got 3 different interesting profiles of people building things, and then mine as well. So if you have a question, I'm not sure if we have a microphone for questions or not. We have one here, so I'll take care of it. Please keep your question really short and ask the question, and then we'll give an answer, and we'll do a few of those for you.
So this question is for Tanel. Was your NFTs 100% asset backed, meaning that each NFT represented a chicken, or was it a membership into a community? And also the other part is how did you get to issue a security token, which is profit sharing, and how did that go? And how did you? What was the result with the authorities on that? Because I think there are several questions here. Because you know what kind of NFT you are in terms of what kind of NFT you are offering.
Great questions. Thanks.
Can I just add a tiny thing to this question? How did you get payments? Like, how did you convert non-crypto people into, you know?
This question is easier, so I'm going to start with that. So, with every NFT comes great story. My story is quite incredible, and that's why I have a lot of people rooting for me. And as I said, I try to explain them as simple as possible. So all the thing that they did was just register their names and stuff into some suspicious website. A lot of people asked them about it, but it all came clear, and that's how I was able to give them, because I was trustworthy and tried to explain them as simple as possible. Very simple words, not crypto anything, but very simple words. We were thinking about giving one chicken as an actual chicken to convert them to NFT, but because the chicken business is a bit rough, so the chickens are like staying in the business, so to say, 1 year. Then they would leave. I spread them throughout people who want them, but the big businesses, they are just killing them. So that's why I said, okay, NFT for 1 year could not be the great solution there, but
This is the first panel I've ever discussed chicken liquidity on.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what I do. I mix the very weird stuff. So that's maybe why I'm here also. Yeah, because the company who actually issued those NFTs, Ignium, which is part of the Coin Metro group, or they have some issues themselves right now, looking for a new way out. Stuck with this stuff right now, looking for a new way out to actually iterate new NFTs, so we can make it on the open platform, because we did it on Algorand, and they are in the Ignium crypto wallet. That's why it's much more simpler to give people like part of this wallet. Then they should create their own and buy Ethereum or whatever cryptocurrency. So we try to make it as simple as possible. But like with everything, first kind of ideas won't usually work. And we are now working on a second iteration to make it work and make it an open platform. But with government officials, we are still kind of trying to figure out what it actually is. We are kind of right now under the radar. Trying to work our way out of this to make it good legal stuff that we could share the experience to others. But yeah, it's kind of security, but it's kind of not security. So we have a very, I don't know, it's very difficult to explain this, what we have there.
Great, thank you. Another question. Oh, come on now. I know you've got questions. There's one right there. Thank you.
How is your experience actually with like partners concerning, like, say, trust? Not only, you mentioned already like the banks and regulation, but also like business partners. So in terms of, do they trust this new stuff, the Web3 companies, also maybe internationally, if you want to have, I mean, the advantages are clear. That's amazing what you can do. But if you work then with international partners and companies, so how is your experience there in like building trust, building relationships and stuff like that?
And just to specify, do you mean like when I represent myself as a company based in Estonia?
Yeah. And also in Estonia in the Web3 space. So if you have like suppliers or something, so one Estonia and one like the whole Web3 new tech thing.
When I speak to whichever, let's say, part is known quite well based, and I mention Estonia, then usually Estonia is known quite well and has a nice positive reputation in general. Obviously, these days, regulatory questions come up, but I guess it's same with every country. And perhaps these days, one of the questions is that how banks are in Estonia when you have a business here. That how are the relations with banks? Well, to be 100% honest, it's easier to work with neobanks and not with local banks these days currently. But it might be again similar with when you go to whatever cooperative bank probably in Sweden, whatever, France, Germany, wherever, it might be difficult to open a bank account for a crypto company per se. So it is so we're here in Estonia as well, and I think Estonian banking sector is going through some sort of a process currently. It gets worse before it gets better, so hopefully in a year or two, something like that. And in general, Estonia's businesses have good reputation, I would say.
Yeah, I think well, if you're doing B2C stuff like a Bolt, for example, then I don't think your clients have any idea where the people who use you, they have no idea where you're from anyways. So I don't think that matters. So I think it's just a benefit to be somewhere. If in the B2B space, especially if we're talking startups and tech, then VC investors and people in this space, whether they're in London or Paris or Berlin or wherever, they know of Wise and Pipedrive and these kind of things. And so Estonia, I think, Europeans would, but Americans couldn't tell you where it's at on the map, but they might be able to tell you it's in Europe, and that's fine. But the idea is it comes, if you're inside of that circle of entrepreneurs or people doing business or builders, then it comes with a positive. For me, I haven't had any like, you put it where? When I told people that, Borderless is in Singapore, now it's in Estonia. Like, so maybe a little bit of, oh, okay, in terms of them figuring it out, but it's a positive thing because I think one of the benefits of having 11 unicorns in a country this size, but also some of those larger brands like Wise and Bolt is that adds a nice layer of, it doesn't necessarily mean anything in reality, but it actually sends a message that this is a place you can build a serious business. So I think that for me, I personally, as the expat outside of this coming in, I haven't had any pushback on the idea of why I wanted to put a company here. Any other thoughts on that question? Other questions? Yes, Magus. Hello.
Hey, you were talking also a little bit about banks and crypto. I'm also curious about, because Web3 also involves crypto a lot. So how it is the system of payment with crypto in Estonia? Is it okay, for example, to pay taxes with crypto? Or is it okay to have a business that you just accept crypto and not convert to fiat? So I'm curious also about that.
I see a lot of Estonian heads going, oh no.
Taxes, not yet. Yeah. Between businesses, well, it's a little community thing probably. With some businesses you can do already. Yeah.
Without doing too much marketing, there are good service providers who can help you as a middleman there between the tax authority or banks. And to keep your life probably simpler, then use it if you must, avoid it if you can.
Mainly because of banks, actually.
Yes.
Okay, question?
Hi there, it's Asko Seeba here from Moon Cascade. Is any of your companies accounting books also audited? And if so, then how easy it was to find an auditor who's accepted the challenge?
Not yet officially audited, but yes, working with several auditors and then their friends together. And then they are a bit worried, but optimistic.
Yeah, we had a similar discussion yesterday at Ethereum Tallinn, and Hermes from, I forget the name of his company that he works for, but basically it's consulting that works with the auditing of this and things like that, and he seemed pretty optimistic about the conversations. There's work to be, like it takes work, but it's not a, it's just something you do. Like it's not that it's a no or that it's impossible, so it seems like that's doable here. His name's Hermes, I don't know his last name, or the company. Brambit, yeah, Brambit. So that might be if you're looking for more information about the auditing thing, that was his whole thing. So we can get his name to you. Question? Another one? You got time for one more? Thoughts? How do I look so good doing this? Aw, thanks, Fidel. So Fidel runs something called Brunch by Fidel at all of the Web3 events. So I look like this because I have too many Brunch by Fidels. But that was a lovely yes. Thank you. Next. Any other questions? Well, in that case, unless you guys have anything you want to add just about here, we'll wrap it up, and we're at a minute left, so that's fine. All good? Please give this wonderful rock star panel a round of applause.